Welcome to the Airshares podcast with Mavis Gregg and Otis Jennings. This episode, we continue our journey into the world of forestry as part of the Death and Dirt series of episodes all about trees and the unique challenges and opportunities faced by families owning forest. I'm your host, Mavis Gregg, and I'm joined again by forester Sam Cook, who shared with us in the previous episode about his life as a forester. Sam, welcome back.
Good to be back. Thank you for having me.
This episode, we're going to talk about forestry and family-owned forests. You and I have worked together for several years, and many may be surprised to learn that a forester and a death and dirt attorney are in cahoots to help to help families with their real estate. So let's find out why we do what we do together. So you're the forester, I'm the attorney, and some of the things we do together are...
I would say quite a bit is around the education side. We spend a lot of time working with not just students or landowners, but the whole gamut of organizations that deal in this space. I remember when we first met, you were on stage with the Sustainable Forestry African American Land Retention, talking about what it means to have air property and how they can do the resolution side of the business. I was in that same space, providing an opportunity for landowners to know that I am a forester. Here's the things that I can do for you, even if you own land and have air property.
We complement each other.
Yes.
My stuff, when I do the education piece, is kind of boring or stressful to people. And then you come in with all the opportunities with forestry.
Yeah, we try to shine light on the fact that you can have air property, you can have land that's in clear title, but here are some programs out there that can help provide income to you. You also may have timber to sell. You may have land that you have no clue that you can get finance.
Yeah.
That provides assistance to you to help provide more conservation opportunities to you. So when I come into a room and I see people and I look at them as whether they own a half an acre or 10,000 acres, I want to understand what they own, what are they willing to do, and how we can help.
See, that's actually surprising to me, or it was when I first learned about the Sustainable Forestry African American Land Retention Program, which we'll talk about in a later episode. But I was actually surprised that people own forests. So let's start there. Talk to us about what is a forest and who are the different types of owners of forests. Let's start there, and then we'll talk about what kind of activities happen in forests and how people participate.
Yeah, I'll spend a little bit more time identifying the landowner per se that may not see themselves as a forest owner.
Okay.
People assume that they have to have thousands of acres, sometimes even hundreds of acres, to consider themselves owning a forest. You can have 10 acres and your home is on that 10 acres and there's trees growing in the back of it or around you. In my world, that's a forest.
Wow.
There's a lady who I worked with in Charleston that owned one lemon tree in the backyard. And her whole job was, let me get rid of that tree. Because she didn't see income potential. We found a way that she was able to take that one crop, sell it every year, get income from it, enough to pay for that freaking taxes that she had to spend every day, every year.
Wait, lemons pay for her taxes?
That's it, in the city of Charleston. But she made the money out of it because she didn't lose the tree. We taught her how to keep the one tree growing and producing lemon. So that one fruit made her income.
So a forest can be a few trees on a small piece of land or even a big piece of land, or it could be a lot of trees or on a lot of land.
Yeah, and it's
somewhere in between.
And it's about how you manage and what you're managing.
Okay. So what are you what are the things that are managed on forests? Like what is it?
We're managing the dirt, the soil.
Oh, okay.
That's one aspect of it. So I think for me, I don't want to take us to the scientific term of forestry, but I want to take us to the level where people can understand it. You may live on a lot, on land that have trees growing. That can be your forest. It's what you manage and how we help you manage it that gets the outcome of it being the forest. Simple as the tree with the lemon. I have some of my clients that may I think they own 5 and 10 acres of land,
Okay.
but they have an objective that they want to do with it. So our job is to help them carry out the objective.
Okay, so you mentioned in the previous episode that one of the forestry hats that you wear is managing the forest assets of a state university. And I imagine there's like hundreds of thousands of acres, or a lot of acres.
100,000 to be exact.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a lot. And so, in that regard, what are the activities that are happening with all these trees? Is it like research? What's happening?
So when I speak about what we own as the College of Natural Resources in the forest asset side of the work that I do for NC State, I manage about 11 properties scattered across 12 counties. We generate X million dollars a year from 3 different ownership models.
Okay.
And that 11 properties can be from 100 acres all the way up to 80,000 acres. We manage for health. We deal in fire, prescribe to make sure that we get it out in front of versus coming up at the end. We also manage to think about the harvesting regimes that we want to do on each one of those properties that brings us income, whether it's a clear cut or thinning or select cut. We work to benefit what the landscape has to offer, but also what the ownership structure is providing us, because each one may be a gift that says this is what you can do or cannot do, which is the same as you as a private landowner. You may hire me as that consultant or individual
10 acres.
on your 10 acres, and you may say, you know, I really don't want to clear cut this land, but I want to do this. I want to make some type of income off of it. My job as the forester is to come in and say, here's what we can offer up. Here's what we can provide as a prescription, but here's what I see that you can or probably cannot do.
So it sounds like on a basic level, forests are a group of trees, and I know that's not an increment, but I want to explain.
No, it's
like
kind of like a
vibe.
stand.
Yeah, and forests have to be, forests can be managed. Obviously, there are wild forests, but forests can be managed, and the reasons for managing them are, well, you've named one is the potential to earn income off of timber, and then another one you named is fruit. And there's probably other things that can be sold from
The
trees.
land. Mushrooms, to be exact.
So then, okay, so that's moving into the agroforestry. So alongside having trees, you can grow other things in the forest as a complementary activity.
Yes, and I think where most people, we don't express the amount of things that can be done in the woods, because I think we wear this one hat of being a forester and we're only thinking about the tree component.
Right.
The part that I encourage individual landowners to do is not only ask questions about how I do make income off the trees, but how do I make income off the land? And so I do a whole land approach when I'm working with landowners.
Okay. So you can have income both from the trees and the land itself. And then I know both of us have been on boards or involved with what I would describe as conservation organizations. You've been on, I think, every board, land trusts and all that, but we've been on land trust boards, et cetera. And I'm curious about that angle with forests, because I know from my experience with these organizations, they're trying to protect birds, other species.
From a wildlife perspective.
Yeah. And then water. I was surprised to learn that there was a connection to trees and water. So can you talk about the natural resource value from a non-income perspective?
Yeah, and so for most people, they realize that they may own land or they may see land around them. Our whole part of the business is the natural resource side of the business. We protect the air, the water, the land itself, those resources that allows us to breathe, survive, and maintain. You take away what we do, it becomes a hindrance to the world. And most people assume that just because we cut trees that we're doing damage to the land. Sustainability is very important. If you look at us compared to the South versus the West, or East versus the West, and you think about forest fires,
Like the wildfires.
the wildfires, we have as many fires on the East Coast as the West Coast, but we do so much.
Many people know that.
Not a clue.
Because usually, yeah, when you usually hear about a wildfire,
It's all
in the West,
you
somewhere
think
really
about the
dry,
West, or even the western part of
hot
North
and
Carolina.
dry. Yeah.
Yeah. The difference is we manage our land to more of a stand. I even sometimes say to an individual tree level, because we want to make sure we clean up the litter that's on the ground. We allow trees to grow to its natural age. And there's not a lot of old growth, as what I would consider most people think that we have in the South compared to other places. So we practice what we say is sustainability. And it's important to us because we can maintain how we grow things. And when I first got into this business, and they kept talking about this word silviculture. It only means how we manipulate the land.
Oh, I thought it had to do with cows.
Nope.
Oh.
Just what we do as foresters on the land that works to the benefit of the owner.
Why did I get cows?
I don't know, Chris, the culture part.
I'm remembering this other forester's president at the Society of American Foresters,
Yes.
and I feel like there were some cows involved. Okay, wait. So forests are good for the earth. I'm picking
Yes.
up. Forests are good for the earth. All of us as part of the earth, and it sounds like they are also good for income, whether you are a state university or an individual. And they're good because you can use the land for recreation, you can use the land for income, you can use it to live off of, and at the same time, your land is contributing to everyone's health,
Correct.
so to speak. So then honing in on family-owned forests, another thing that I was surprised about when I came into the forestry space is that the highest proportion of forest owners in America are families.
Especially in the, I call the southern part of the United States.
Yeah.
What we in forestry terms call, could be Region 8, which is the 13 southern states from Virginia to Texas. We have about 80 to 85% of the land that's private land ownership. As compared to when you go to the West Coast, it flips to 60 to 70% is government land.
So families play a big role.
Families play a major role. And it's important enough for them to know that when we talk about forestry, we're not just using the term of cutting trees. And if I cannot express any one thing, I want to express this. And this is more not just for kids, but it's for all. When kids go to school and they teach or take on this subject called environmental science, it's the same thing that we do in forestry. We are in place to protect the environment. The only difference on the environmental science side, they don't talk about the harvesting and sustainability of trees. We do the whole gamut. It's important for us to know the life cycle, to deal with the life cycle, and come up with a metric that can allow us to grow trees and retain the trees and keep the landscape to its natural habitat, because it also brings in wildlife and habitat for them. A lot of our kids go to school because they want to be in wildlife. You can't have wildlife without the forest. So we have to do all of that to entertain all subjects related to that.
Okay. All right. And we are going to do that in our next episode. We're going to, actually, our next couple of episodes, we're going to talk about how people who are individuals and families that own forests can take steps to sustainable stewardship.
You have a lot of clients that can care less about cutting the trees. One of my first clients back in South Carolina, when she met and we came together and I got her farm and tract number, which I think we'll talk about later, gave her a forest management plan. Guess what her number one objective was?
What?
Butterflies.
Cute.
That's why she wanted the land that she inherited, and it was heirs property. And once we helped her identify the person, helped to clear the title, but also gave her a forest management plan. She happened to have a trip going to Japan, so we found something in Japan that she can go look at from a butterfly standpoint.
No.
She came back and she implemented it on her land. Prior to her going to Japan, she did not want to cut any trees off of her land, because part of what she was seeing every time she came to the land is this big natural clear cut that was done.
Yeah.
And she said, it's ugly and I don't want my land to look like that.
Yeah.
I worked with this client 5 years, and I'm still friends with her now. 3 years after the clear cut, and the land, it was owned by an international paper company. They clear cut it, they reforested it, they actually got the site prep done, and they put trees back in the ground. She came to me and she says, oh, if my land's gonna look like that, then we can do it.
Yeah.
And I said, here's how much money you're gonna make as well, especially now that you have clear title. And it's gonna help you pay for your butterflies.
Yeah.
Everything that she needed came off the land.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, again, forestry really helped my legal practice, because people are coming to me because they have severe legal issues with their family land and they don't have capital. Yeah. Like, money is always a barrier to getting legal services. And so what you're describing is that not only can you play an active role in sustainable forestry by having a relationship with your forest and a plan and support from various aspects, but you can also, I lost my point.
You can think about the many options that are available to you that you may not realize.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
if
because
you talk
we talked
to
about
people,
timber, fruit, butterflies. Forests are magical.
a lot of stuff that you want, you don't realize you have it.
Yeah.
Our job is to help facilitate what your outcomes are around owning the land.
Very holistic.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So in our next episodes in the forestry series, we are going to talk about practical approaches to being an individual or family-owned forest and managing it. So Sam, thank you for this helpful introduction into forestry and conservation. Join us for our next episode where we will continue our discussion about forestry and the role of family-owned forests. We look at forest management plans.